Hello, hello, hello. Hey, friends. Slava Brooks here. How are we doing today? Took three tries to get YouTube working. If you're here watching this replay, thank you for stopping by. I love to hang out here Tuesdays, Thursdays with my fellow survivor thrivers as we work our way through my book, Releasing Your Authentic Self. If you're here with us live today, please say hello. Let me know that you're here so I can welcome you. Today's topic is trust. Yes, learning how to trust. It's an ongoing challenge especially when we've been hurt by the people we trusted, maybe as children, and the ones closest to us, right? So we always start with come as you are. How are you doing right here, right now? And if you are curious about learning more about my coaching, please visit my website, slavabrooks.com. Well, with that, hello, friends. Hey, Rob, how are you doing? Good to see you, my friend. I was laughing because YouTube was giving me a hard time today. Wasn't gonna let me go live, but the third time was a charm. Hey, Lady Leo, long time no see. How are you doing, my friend? So how are you guys? If we start with right here, right now, how are we doing? Come as you are, always. This is the only place where we can start from. Rob, I'm good. How are you? I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Doing good. Feels like as we are coming to the end of the year, things are picking up speed. I don't know if that's possible, but sometimes that's what it feels like. Hey, EJ, good to see you, my friend. Glad you're here. Hey again, Sue. Loving those hearts, loving those flowers. Thanks for bringing me joy. Rob says, I have tired legs for some reason. Well, didn't we just see your video earlier? You're tramping through the countryside? Maybe you've just been doing a lot of walking. Lady Leo is good. And I'm sure Rob and Sue are sleepy. It's getting late for you guys. It's getting late for you guys. And EJ, I see you, my friend. I hear you. I'm glad you're here. Glad you're here. There you go. You did have a walk earlier. Yep. Yep. Okay, Sue says quite sleepy, but not as sleepy as Kira. Yes, I have sleepy cats around here too, which is good. When was it? Maybe it was, see, it's a blurs day. Today's Thursday. Was it last night? I had Penny starting to chew the corners of my laptop. If it wasn't the corners of the laptop, he was chewing the box light. So I was like, as I'm trying to interact with people on Zoom, shooing the cat away. So, hey, Elizabeth, how are you doing, my friend? We're just getting started. Just checking in, see how you're doing. Rob, because I was lazy for a long time. I've lost my fitness, replaced it with fatness. So walk hurts more now. Well, but the beautiful thing is our body responds pretty quickly. Our body responds pretty quickly. But the same way we try to do everything else, we ease into it, Rob. Don't go for a 10K hike right away. Work up to it. Work up to it. So the topic of conversation today, is trust. And I'm going to share, set up the conversation here from our Facebook group. And then I also pulled up a beautiful Brene quote on trust that I want to share with you guys. But to set up here, it is sad how desperately we struggle with the emotional pain caused by abuse. Right? In fact, the emotional and psychological abuse from people whom I loved and trusted did more damage than the physical abuse. But I found a way to heal and restore. And big part of that was through community, right? Through both, like the part of me that wanted to heal, that wanted to connect, but then was for a long time the other part who's, I don't want to connect, I don't want to trust, I don't want to hang out with these people, these are not my people, right? So an important part of healing is to surround yourself with people you trust. These are the people who value you and your authentic truth, right? Who are not just going to ask you to show up only when you're picture perfect, because there is no such a thing, or when things are perfectly happy and good. Nope. Those are not your people. But I recognize, like I said, in the beginning, it was hard to work on trust. So that's why I found a quote to really emphasize that point for us. And you guys all shared your lovely journal entry here for today. So the two questions that I asked in our community: how many people in your life do you trust? And in what way do you trust yourself? Right? Because these are obviously and very often linked. Just taking a look at our chats. Thanks. Please say hello if you're here with us so we can welcome you. So the quote from Brene Brown on trust. Trust is a product of vulnerability that grows over time and requires work, attention, and full engagement. I love that. Full engagement. Trust is a product of vulnerability that grows over time and requires work, attention, and full engagement. So that means a lot of things. And for me personally, like I was saying earlier, we recognize often, because child abuse is a betrayal, right? It's a abuse of betrayal, abuse of trust. And so the longing to be seen and heard and validated and connected to these people that we grow up with, right? We get hurt over and over and over again when we don't get that. And then over time, because we need to stay connected to our caregivers, over time, we turn it off, what it is that we need. We stop to trust what we are experiencing, what's our reality, our feelings, because we can't, accept the truth in that moment. We can't. It's not a choice. And so we just turn it all off, repress it, and don't know about you and how you survived, but I made up stories about my family and was left with, never trusting myself as a result of it until I started healing. Right, Sue? Great quote. She says, yes, it is a good quote. So I'm going to turn to the comments you're sharing here. Let me see Wanda's comment, her answer to those questions. She says, how many people in my life do I trust? Wow, I could write a bestseller on the process it has taken me to just have myself as someone I trusted. When I say people I trust, I am saying those are people I know would do nothing intentionally to harm me in any way. The count for that would be 9 people. I really love what you say here, Lady Leo, that you recognize that they would not do anything intentionally to harm you, right? It's like you're giving people the grace to be imperfect. If someone, harms you or upsets you, chances are they didn't do it intentionally, right? That these specific people you're referring to. So I love that you shared that. Because that's how I feel about my people, right? The people that I trust. I know they would never do anything intentional to harm me. And if something happened, I know these people would want me to check in with them and let them know, because they would do whatever it would take to make it right. She also goes on to say, I trust myself now to make good, safe decisions for myself. I'm learning to trust that I am actually worth loving. Beautiful. Beautiful. And now I'm curious. The coach in me wants to ask, how are you learning to trust that? What's your process? Because it is a process, right? So if you want to share that in the comments, Lady Leo, because I think it's an important piece to share, right? We often hear people share like that. I'm learning to trust that I'm actually worth loving. So how does that look in practice? And I know you know. So thank you so much. And I understand, and you're not alone. Right? When you say that you can write a bestseller on the process it has taken to just have myself as someone I trusted. Yep, exactly. Yeah, that has been a process too. It used to be one time to mess up and I was done. Yeah, yeah, exactly. I hear you. I hear you. But as we are learning to give ourselves grace, right, we can extend that grace to others. Love it. Love it. So, Rob, can I share your comment? I just like it when I can see your permission to do so. In the meantime, Sue P shared with us. Sue P shared with us, as a child, I was taught to trust or at least to believe everyone. But the result was so much pain and disappointment that in time I learned to trust no one. Mm. For years, there was nobody I could turn to who didn't blame me for being as I was. And it's taking time for me to really start to trust and open up to a few people who didn't hurt me. There are only a couple of people locally and a few more online whom I really feel safe to trust, and more than a surface level. And all of that taught me not to believe in or to trust myself. But as others have accepted me and believed in me, they have taught me to begin to accept myself and so to start to trust myself. Beautiful. Thank you, Sue. Thank you so much, my friend. And I understand. It is very confusing, the messages that we get as children about trust, right? When we are taught to, right, respect our elders, be, kind and or respectful to, yeah, adults, listen to your parents, right? Um, listen to your teacher, like who do as you're told, follow the rules no matter what, right? And then as we as children are looking around, seeing what we see and experience, and no one is saying anything, no one is going to do something about this, right? Who do I go to with what I'm experiencing and feeling in here? We quickly know and learn. There is no one. There is no one to turn to. And then, like I said, we just repress it. We just turn it off. We just turn it off, and then we can't trust our reality. And we struggle with where do I end and other people begin, because we turn ourselves into pretzels, right? To fit in, to be pleasing, to accommodate, to get the connection, validation that we so desperately want and long for. Takes time. Lady Leo says here, I do a lot of reality checks. For instance, when I hear people that I admire say they love me, I think, wow, they're a decent kind of people. They love me. Then the negative self thought must be the lie. Yep. Yep. Excellent. Yes. It's good to question our thoughts, right? To be curious. And of course, before that, it's good to learn to become aware of them, right? To recognize the cycle, the thoughts, the feelings, the behaviors, thoughts, feelings, behaviors. And I've told you guys, I had that on my mirror for probably years, years. My thinking leads to my feeling, that leads to what I do, what action do I take. Lynn says, sounds like you're telling the story of my life. I hear you. I hear you, friend. Often heard the phrase elders and betters. Yep. Yep. I would often, when I was speaking about child sexual abuse prevention and educating, especially parents about keeping their kids safe, I would, be very uh, gentle. As you guys know, I can be. I try to be as gentle as possible when I would suggest that we be mindful about how we are teaching our kids, right? Who we are teaching our kids to trust, to listen to, and do we model for our kids that no matter what these adults say, I will believe you first. That has served me well with my kids when they were younger, because yes, I would model respect and kindness towards any adults, any of their teachers, coaches, and but I still would make it clear to my kids that, just because I'm being kind and respectful towards someone doesn't mean that if they do something that makes you upset or makes you, sad, or it hurts you in any way, or they ask you to keep a secret, I I want you to tell me, and that I will always believe you first, right? Because I know, heard from a handful of survivors that they never told, that because they saw how much their parents, respected the guy or approved or were friends with them, or that they would never believe the kid, right? So separating who the person is, what the relationship is, and focus on the behavior, right? Important when we are empowering our kids and being role models for trust, right? Isn't that what the quote said? Product of vulnerability that grows over time. It requires work, attention, and full engagement. Yes, Sue. If there was a problem, it was always what did you do to deserve it? Nope. Nope. So Rob, did I get an okay from you that I can share your comment? Thank you, Rob. I'm just scrolling through your comments. Thank you, Rob. Thanks, friend. So, just to refresh, how many people in your life do you trust? In what way do you trust yourself? Rob says, not many, Benny. This is a subject that for me crosses over the Rubicon of prescribed reality. For me, it's a profound wisdom, same as loving yourself allows you love other people. I believe that trusting yourself leads to trusting others. There may be processes underpinning, such as boundaries and vulnerability, but it is true for me nonetheless. Yes, absolutely, my friend. Absolutely. And as you guys have heard me share, right? So much of our struggle with trust also comes from, right? We struggle with trusting even our own bodies because for so long, right? This body was stuck in fight, flight, and freeze. And so there was no way I could connect. No one was safe because everything inside of me was screaming, it's not safe. No one is safe, right? The Brene Brown quote on vulnerability, right? So, no, all the messaging from my inside coming to my head, and because of being in the fight or flight or freeze, was like, I am always ready for war. I'm always on guard, looking out. Who's coming at me now? How do I protect myself? Because it must be me. There's no one out here validating the reality of what happened to me and what's going on inside of me. Even trying to tell people, no one wanted to hear. So again, the self-fulfilling prophecy. You can't be trusted. I can't trust myself. I'm a bad person. And so I projected being bad out there. It was the filter through I saw the world, saw myself. And so slowly over time, when we learn to trust what we're feeling by learning to understand how our body responds to stress and trauma, and as we help our bodies to come into a place of connection, place of connectedness, and learn to express that work that Brene Brown talks about, being vulnerable and attentive to how we're feeling and doing a lot of reality check and making sense of it. Making sense of it. It makes sense that I would feel that way. It makes sense that I would feel this way. It makes sense that I would feel that way. Validate that reality. Until we realize, okay, no, this is my feeling. This is how it feels. I can trust how I feel now. And working with my body, I can see where I end and where the other person begins. And the more I was able to release out of my body, right, through energy work, tension and trauma release, Reiki was also super helpful. Learning to express my feelings in a healthy way, the more I was able to release of that chronic tension that I was, had held in my body for so long. And I learned to trust my feelings, trust myself. Like you said, Rob, then I started to trust other people. I know who I am. I know how I feel. I know where I end, and I know where you begin. And I'm not feeling like I'm under a constant threat from someone out here, nor do I live any longer with a constant threat of, something is going to arise inside of me that I don't know how to respond to. How can we trust our bodies when the trauma felt good in some ways? Excellent question, EJ. Excellent question. Anyone else have had this? Anyone else? This, right, creates a lot of struggle inside of us. And I'm going to just use myself as an example here. As a little girl, right, being sexually abused, and the abuse with my stepfather, a lot of it was not violent, right? He was loving. He was actually the more attentive, loving parent. And so, right, my body responded to the touch the way bodies respond to touch, right? And because of that, I thought I was bad. I thought it was my fault. I thought it was my fault that I was bad. I must have been the one. My body responded to it, even though my head, and this actually is what created a war for a long time between my mind and my body. I hated this body. Literally, this is, I think, part of the reason why we live up here. Please get me away from this part of me. So just wanting to be up here, and I hated on the body. So when I understood and I learned about this, this is what we go through when we are abused, and your body responds a certain way to touch. It's not your fault. It was not your fault. You were assaulted. You were a victim. right? And then we need to work on the shame, right? Because very often this will instill in us some deep, deep core wounding around shame. And so to recognize when shame is feeding our negative thinking about ourselves, then shame is literally like it's like you're living with a tiger, right? It's like you're self-harming when we live with shame. Not on purpose, you're not doing it on purpose, but um it's a worthwhile practice to get to know the feeling of shame in your body. And that was probably one of the hardest feelings that I committed to getting to know, um, because usually it was when I would be feeling shame where my I would get triggered. And way back when, I would be triggered into acting out in some way, or shame would trigger me into shutting down in a conversation, or shame would trigger me to lash out, right, in an argument, you know. Um, so shame is a pretty powerful trigger. And I actually think like it's in shame where people will kill. When people do harm to other people, I think it's shame. I think a lot of perpetrators that are doing harm, it's shame that's driving that. So I hear you, EJ. I hear you. It is a visceral reaction. I totally get it, my friend. I know this is not an easy thing to talk about, but I'm hoping that getting the support from the community, can we validate EJ? Thank you, Lady Leo. You are not alone. You are not alone, my friend. You are not alone. It helps us to normalize these conversations. And for me personally, it was because I was in a support groups with other women who had been sexually abused or sexually assaulted, and them talking about shame and how it felt, that I was able to connect the pieces, that I was feeling shame. I had no idea that what I had been feeling, the visceral reaction you're talking to, like, I don't want to put any more words to it right now, but when I was able to name it, like, shame does not like to be spoken about, right? Shame thrives in secrecy and fear. So the more we can, like, bring the light into it, shine the light into the places where we have been told, or because of lack of support, made to believe that there was something inherently wrong with us, like that my body was just ugly and dirty and shameful, right? It's like, no wonder I never saw my body my whole young adult life. I could not look in the mirror and see myself. I only saw just the peripherals, kind of what I had to see. And we've talked about this here before. I didn't see this body. I couldn't even, touch it, feel it, right? But now, by naming it, like, that's shame. That is shame. And chances are, when I'm feeling shame, it's being fed by a negative old lie, a distorted message, right? A story that you made up about yourself, about how the body works, about your value, about your being good enough. So I hear you, EJ. So do what you can. Do what you can, my friend. If you can, stand up, get grounded, get a drink of water. Speaking of, let your nervous system know, I hear you, I feel you. And it gets easier. It gets easier, my friend. Slowly over time, I can still remember some hard conversations that I used to have with my partner around shame. And I would usually like just say, this is really hard. I'm feeling a lot of shame come up around this. I'm not sure why or what it's about, but somehow I'm feeling like a complete failure, or like there's something inherently wrong with me, or that I'm stupid, that I don't know how to do this, or that there's something really bad about me because of this. And so naming it usually took the intensity out of it and helped me to come back in the present moment, because we also know what we're learning from nervous system response, that when we tip into shame, we're also tipping into freeze. So, but that's the hard part, says Lady Leo. I have parts of the trauma that I still carry so much shame about, but I know I won't be totally productive until I address it. But guilt standing there beside shame makes it harder. Yes, it does. It does. And this is where, finding, a therapist that you trust to work with and to share this with, or a coach or a fellow survivor that, because I can't tell you how often, my clients have brought things to me to share when we were working with shame, and basically they get to experience, like, we work towards this and we work up to this, because their expectation is that, well, if you only knew this about me, you would turn away from me, you wouldn't want to work with me anymore, I'm sure of it. And I'd be like, well, I invite you to try that. There's nothing really, anything you can say or do that will make me turn away from you. Try me, right? But we start small, and we experience a little bit of relief, share a little bit, we share a little bit more, we share a little bit more, and then from it we recognize and feel the being empowered, and then recognize how much energy it is taking from us, like to contain the secrets, to contain the shame. And I'm just reflecting for myself. It was just like, spending so many years just like almost buckling down from the pressure of shame and feeling horrible, and just shame just like coming down hard. And so slowly, I had a conversation with someone today. That haystack, right? We're just pulling out one straw, taking a look at it. Is this shame? What's the story? Is it even true? Right? What have I made this mean? And Am I keeping this one or am I letting it go? So, but shame is a liar, the same way fear is. And it is slowly something that we turn towards, right? And then we learn to sit with ourselves as these parts bring these stories that they know for sure we are going to reject, we're going to hate on them, we're going to abandon them, we're not going to want to listen to them. But the more we are, hey, you're a part of me. I see you. I hear you. I refuse to reject you. And my friends, there are things that I am not proud of, right? That I have done things that I am not proud of, but I refuse to continue to harm myself for something that I did when I didn't know better. Because the truth is, I harmed myself way more than I harmed anyone else, right? I took what was done to me and like times 10, and just like the self-hate was all consuming for so long. It's like, no, 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 no. I'm not perfect. I'm still work in progress, right? But like, what is this feeling? I'm going to be curious about it. And that's where I've learned to trust myself, right? When those thoughts pop up, I know where it comes from. I know where it comes from, and it simply isn't true. I am an inherently good human. So are all of you. You are all incredible human beings. Beautiful, courageous, kind, generous. Shame, what makes us defensive? Yes. And sometimes shame is what gets in the way of change, because what if we figure out the truth? And the biggest truth that we're afraid of is that what if I am as bad as I think I am? I'm not in, shame doesn't even let you to check it out. It's just going to stop it before you even go there. Because what if you are as bad as you think you are? Right? That's the story. So, and when we feel inherently bad, your nervous system, right? Fight or flight, stress hormones pumped into your adrenals are going. Adrenals, yes. Shame causes fear, right? Remember the driver? Another Brene Brown quote. Let me pull it up. Hold on. Right? Shame cannot survive being spoken and being met with empathy. And shame corrodes the very part of us that believes we are capable of change. I'm trying to look for that one quote from Brene. Here it is. When perfectionism is driving us, shame is riding shotgun, and fear is that annoying backseat driver. Shame feeds fear and perfectionism. Voila. And so, what's the antidote? How do we heal from shame? The last thing I said, when we are in shame, it pumps stress hormones into our system, right? How do we fix it? My friends, research is showing us the self-compassion practices, hand on your heart, connecting to your body through loving kindness practice. When we can, the same part of the nervous system, right, that can, right, get your fight, flight, freeze going, the other part responds to oxytocin. And when we can activate oxytocin in our body, the feel good hormone, it helps to counter the effect, the impact the stress hormones have on our nervous system. Yes, yes, living in shame makes us feel exhausted. It pushes you up into freeze. When you are in the state of freeze in your body, it's like your gas pedal and brakes are being pushed at the same time. Your body is literally at war with itself. It's like spiking in stress hormones and it's trying to, to take you down. So you feel nothing. It takes all the energy. It's all consuming energy for the body. It's no longer worried about you getting energy to your hands or your feet. It's just pulling in. It's a high stress environment internally. Literally, we go into freeze before we die, right? It's like maximum amount of hormones into the body so we don't feel anything. It's the place we visit before we check out and leave our bodies. So, and let me say this again, my friends. The antidote, what we can do, is to help our nervous system, because it can, right, create oxytocin, the hormones that helps to bring our brain back online, the hormones that repairs the damage that chronic stress does. So our body is brilliant. Our body is a healing machine. When we can help it, right, pull it down a little bit out of the stress cycle and start to tip into more of the rest and digest connection with our bodies. When we feel connected to our bodies and we feel safe in our bodies, when this body looks and feels safe, the people in front of me feel safe with this body. I hear you, EJ. I hear you. I am so proud of you for sticking it out, for being here. I hope hearing this and hearing the comments from the other people here is helping you to see you're not alone, right? And that's the other thing, like I used to do because shame was such a fast trigger for me so long, is literally when I would be carrying my flashcards in my purse and I could just feel that warm wash of shame. And all of a sudden I'm kind of like, disappearing from the world, like being feels like I'm being pulled back. I would grab my cards, I would grab my crystals, I would grab my oils, I would grab the things that I knew would ground me in this present moment, and I would go through my cards. That was then, this is now. That was then, this was now. That was then, this is now. I would literally just repeat it over and over and over and over and over and over and over again until I was like, okay. I'm sorry, Elizabeth. I'm sorry. What if you knew better, you knew it was wrong and it was bringing harm to others and you still did it? How do you face that shame, let alone the guilt and the shame? Lady Leo, we do it by bringing out the mama bear, right? You here now, right? I've had to sit with my own inner teenager who, yes, was, you know, not always fun or pretty, but I would have to sit with her and, like, hey, sweet girl, I know, I understand, I know what you did, but I am still here. I am not rejecting you. I still love you. Right? As you connect with her, Lady Leo, you let her tell you her worst fears, and you tell her, yes, that is hard. Yes, we hurt people. Yes, it was sad. Yes, but I'm here to forgive you. Right? I had to tell her over and over and over again. And by accepting what I thought was the worst of me, I was finally able to accept and open up to the possibility, right? That there was some good here too. I hope you found this helpful, Lady Leo, and how I have, made peace with, the things that I've done is that they were, done when I didn't know better, and I've made peace with it, right? I just wonder the effects it had on those and if they are healed more than worrying about me, more than, yeah, I hear you. I hear you. Well, you finding peace about it releases them and helps them to heal too. I believe we are all connected to the people that we have bumped into in our lives for whatever reason. When we honor and celebrate our lives and that we respect ourselves and our lives, we are also um, then releasing others and respecting other humans, right? And it's a practice. It is a practice, right? We turn it over, we turn it over. I can fix this, right? I can't fix everything else, but I'm going to do what I can. And and I do wanna end with that what really motivated me, um, was the impact shame had on my body, the toxic, impact from shame on my body. I was like, "Enough, enough, enough." And I know in my healing, I have put a lot of good out in the world, and whatever harm I've done my best to make it right. I hear you, Lady Leo. I hear you, my friend. But there's also the beauty in us accepting our own shadows, our own the things that we, have maybe shame about or harm that we have done. Um, my thought just left. I had something very important to say, and now I don't remember. Um, yes, here it is. Now I remember. Is that when we forgive that in ourselves, we we forgive that in others. When we give ourselves grace, we hold grace for other people. So shame may have done a number on my body that's part of the last 4 years of health challenges. Yes, EJ, yes. And again, that was my biggest motivation, learning the toxic stress that shame creates in my body. I did whatever I could to face it. I found a safe person to share all the things that I felt bad about. And I can't fix it. I can't go back and make it all right. I hear you, Sue. That was some of my biggest regrets too, is how I was as a mom when my girls were young, as I was just starting my healing. I was a very, very controlling mother, and I know I scared them, because things had to be clean, they had to be organized. Ugh, but I've had to forgive myself. Can't go back, and I've apologized to my girls, and when they're in therapy and they come and say, "Hey, mom, well, talked about you in therapy today." I'm like, "Okay, anything you want to share? I'm here." And if they say something that, "Yep, you're right, I did that," or, "Yeah, you're right, I wasn't there for you. I wasn't able to love you back then the way you deserved. You're absolutely right. And that must have been devastating. I hear you." And that willingness heals me and it heals them. And I know it's healing generations past and generations future. So, all right, my friends, the card I drew for us today, one day she opened her mind to new possibilities. Who needed this reminder today? How about this? Actually has come up in the conversation a couple of times today. So, who here needed to be reminded? You too, are you open to a new possibility? Yes, that you too can heal your shame? I ask God for forgiveness. He loves everyone and forgives those who regret violence. Amen, Elizabeth. Yes. All right, sweet friends. Have a beautiful weekend. Take good care. Do something that sparks joy. And I'll see you back here on Tuesday. It's Christmas week for those, right, who celebrate Christmas. So Tuesday only next week. So I hope to see you on Tuesday. Take good care. Thanks for the thumbs up, my friends. I appreciate it. Take care. Bye now.